about it from all angles. We talked about prayer, talked about fasting, and we want to make sure that we cover everything that is necessary for you to come to the conclusion that God is serious about his word and bringing it to pass. Go with me to Matthew 17 and 21. I want to kind of start here, Matthew the 17th chapter. Or probably let's start start here around the 13th verse. 14. Yeah, 14 verse. This will be Matthew 17 and 14. Let's start here. And when they were come to the multitude, there came to him a certain man, kneeling down to him and saying, Lord, have mercy. Now, I want you to see the backdrop here. Show you the backdrop. Let's go to verse number 1. Okay, verse number 1 first. Okay, because it says here, number 14, and when they will come to the multitude, let's find out who they are. Now let's go to verse number 1. After 6 days, Jesus taketh Peter, James, and who? John. Okay. His brother, and bringeth them up into an high mountain apart. So who's there? Peter, James, and John. Peter, James, and John. But now, verse 14 says, and when they will come to the multitude, which means that Peter, James, and John has been separated from the multitude. You got me? They've been separated. Peter, James, and John, let's go to verse 5. While he yet spake, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them. Now, who was them there? Peter, James, and John. Good. Now go back to verse number 2. And was transfigured before them. Now who is them there? Peter, James, and John. I want you to hear this. We can look at the word before as standing in front of them. But we can also use the word before as being the first. You got me? So we can use before in two contexts. He was transfigured in front of them, or he was transfigured first. So if we use it in the context that he was transfigured before, was being first, that means if we use it in that context, that Jesus was not the only one transfigured. Because if he did it first, Peter, James, and John were transfigured also. Okay? I want to use it in the context that Peter, James, and John followed suit to what Jesus experienced, because he took them up to a high mountain. Usually when you see the word high mountain in scripture, it means another form or another level of revelation. Now, let's look here. Let's go to verse number 3, and it says, and behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elias talking with him. So, in other words, Moses is dead. Elias is, come on, dead. But they see Moses and Elias. So therefore, there had to be a spiritual enlightenment that Peter, James, and John had that transfigured them to see what Jesus saw when he was transfigured. Until you are transfigured like Jesus, okay, you can never understand what Jesus is going to do, because you are not transfigured into the realm that he is in. Okay? Look at this. Go to Luke 24 and 45. I'm painting a picture here. Luke 24. Then he, Jesus there, opened their what? Understanding, that they might what? Understand the what? Scriptures. Go to Ephesians 1 and 18. The eyes of your what? Understanding being enlightened. So Jesus opened up their understanding, but your understanding has eyes. So to understand something means that you can see what's been revealed that everybody can't see. So in the realm that Jesus lives in, everybody can't. Got me? So when Jesus begins to do things, you have to be elevated to a different realm or dimension to be able to see what other folk can't see, because their level or their dimension has not been elevated to a high mountain. So when God begins to talk to you, or when Jesus begins to talk to you, he has to elevate you through the eyes of the Spirit so you can understand what's going on. And if you can't access that realm, you will never ascertain or understand what God is saying, because it can only be understood by the spirit realm. So Jesus took 3 men up to a high place that the other 9 did not go. You got me? I want you to hear something. And so when they came, go to verse 14, John 17:14. When they came to the multitude, there came to him a certain man kneeling down to him and saying, him there being Jesus, Lord, have mercy. Verse number 15. Lord, have mercy on my son. He is a lunatic, or he keep having seizures. So vexed for oft times, he falleth into the fire and often into the water. Verse number 16. And I brought him come on, to thy disciples. Come on, you got to follow me. I'm on verse now, number 16. I'm on verse number 16 now. And I brought him to thy disciples. Now the disciples are the who? Followers of who? And they could not what? What do you do when you bring your issues to church and you can't get cured? Okay. All right. Okay. They brought him to the right people, but the people weren't in the right place to do what they, okay. Because they had not been to the high place. There's a place in God that you must climb to or be lifted to that you will not see unless you have an encounter where Isaiah said, I saw the Lord. Come on. High and lifted up. I saw the Lord. And where was he? High. He was what? So now, if he was high, that means I had to see him high, which means God had to reveal himself in a high place. You will not get what God has for you until he reveals to you in a higher place than you already are. Okay. Y'all got to follow me. Because I want to show you here that we have a responsibility to be lifted up into places. We got to lift up our eyes to see things. Okay. Yeah. Go to the book of Genesis. Probably chapter number, let me see. '15. Chapter 15. And let's start at verse number probably 4. 15 verse 4. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, Abraham, saying, this shall not be thine heir. In other words, Abraham is having a conversation with God, and he's thinking he's not going to get an heir. We're going to fasting and praying. And so he's saying, this shall not be my heir, but he that comes forth out of thy own bowels shall be thine heir. God is saying, I know you're old, but I'm going to give you a child. It's going to come out of you. He's not going to be your servant, not going to be your slave. He's going to come out of you. So Abraham has a problem because it's been a long time. Let's go to verse number 5. And he brought him forth abroad and said, look now. Come look where? And tell the. In other words, Abraham, listen to me. You cannot look at the earth now. Because if you're going to see what I'm saying, the only example I can show you is something higher than where you are. Y'all got to get this. So stop looking at your surroundings and start looking toward the heavens. And tell the stars if they'll be able to number them. Because you've been counting stuff around here. But I got a higher place I want to take you to that the counting is numberless. So in order to see what God is going to do in your life, he has to take you to a place that's larger and bigger and more, is not confined by your limited sight, because your limited sight can be limited because you're limiting it by earthly examples. So when God gets ready to show you something in the future, he has to show you something different, because everything on the earth tell you it won't happen. Okay? So get ready now for God to lift you beyond your ability to think, see, or feel.